Hi, this is Misty at LoveThatShot.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Love That Shot actions that come included with our photo veil and photo texture collections. I already have Photoshop open, so let's jump right in and get started. The first thing that we need to do is open our photo that we want to start editing. There's two ways of doing that. You can first go up to File, Open, and then navigate to where you have your photo saved, or you can just open the folder and have it open already and then just click, drag, and drop it onto the software program. Super simple. That's my favorite way of opening a photo. We want to make sure that our actions are showing up so that we can start using them. Mine aren't over here in my right sidebar, so I'm going to click Window and then click Actions. Now that brings up a palette full of our actions that we have loaded, but it floats out over our photo and just gets in the way. So I'm going to dock it into the right hand sidebar so it's easier to use. In this video we're going to be using the Texture Infusion actions. You'll see those right here. To open the set of actions, just click the arrow next to the folder and that opens them up. So we have all of our actions listed here. There's Texture Infusion Blast, Smoothing, and Tone It Down. And we're going to be using all of those today in this video, so let's get started with Texture Infusion. To play the action, you just click on it and then click play, and that'll bring up a message for you, and it says, in the following window, navigate to the texture you would like to use. Then click place. Resize the texture to cover your entire photo. Finally, double click on the photo to commit the change. The action will continue automatically. Ready to get started? Click Continue to select a texture. So we'll click Continue. And I already have my folder of textures loaded. If you don't see the textures that you want to use, just navigate to the folder that you have on where they're stored on your computer. So we'll go ahead and select Luau and then click Place. Now all we need to do is resize the texture over our photo and then double click. And the awesome thing about this action is that it already applies a blending mode of soft light for you and creates a mask over the layer. And what this does, if you don't like where a texture is falling on your photo, you can go ahead and click the white box area, select a soft round brush, and make sure that the black is showing in the color selector at the bottom. I like to have my brush set at 50% opacity. That way it's not such a harsh painting when I'm painting away the texture. So if I didn't like it over these flowers, I could just start painting over that area. And what you'll notice is that the color tone from the texture, it also disappears. Now this is where the smoothing action really comes into play. It will smooth the texture over the flowers but keep the color tone. So that's really awesome, and we'll show that in a minute. Now I'm going to show you how to use the Texture Infusion Blast. So we'll just dump this into the garbage. We'll click Texture Infusion Blast and then hit play. The same message from earlier pops up, so we'll click Continue so we can select our Luau texture and click Place. Then we'll resize the texture over the photo and double click. Now this action is super cool. I'm going to minimize the action palette so we can see the layers. It automatically selects the soft light layer at 100%, but it also creates several other layers for you to choose from. There's screen, and you can see how much of a difference it gives the photo. You can also, it automatically comes at 50% opacity, but you can turn that up or down depending on the photo that you're editing. Then there's overlay, and that gets pretty harsh, but we can take the opacity down and see how it changes the photo. Then we have hard light, and that gets pretty crazy as well. But for some photos it really works. So you just need to play with the different textures, the different blending modes, and just see how they affect your photo. And we can take the opacity down on that and up. to see how it changes. And then we have multiply. It automatically comes at 50% too if we were to darken it or lighten it. And then it also creates a normal layer of the texture, so you have endless possibilities. So what this Texture Infusion Blast action does is it gives you several options to choose from, so you can just immediately start playing with different actions or different layers. So we'll go ahead and leave it on soft light because I like the way it's affecting this photo. And we'll double click our actions to show them again. Now I want to take a little bit of the texture off of the flowers because I like, whenever I'm using textures, I like to take the texture off of either skin or flowers. If the area already has a texture that I want to show off, I try to take off texture out of those areas. So to do that, I'm going to run my smoothing action. So we'll just click smoothing and play. Now it says before running this action, make sure you have the texture layer selected on which you want to apply smoothing. After running this action, select a large soft round brush, make sure the foreground color is white, then paint over the areas you would like to smooth. This will take the texture out of those areas, leaving the color intact. Click continue to begin. So we'll click continue. Now if I wasn't already selected on, or if I hadn't selected the soft light layer and I ran this smoothing action and maybe I was on the hard light layer, what it would do is put this layer above the hard light one, and I wouldn't see any change take place on the actual layer I want to change. So that's why we want to make sure we click on the layer that we want to smooth. So to get the smoothing on the flowers, we're going to click this black box area. We'll select our soft round brush, and to get it just a little bit smaller, a little trick is to press the left bracket key on your keyboard, and to get it bigger, just the right bracket key. It's a little trick I like to use. So we'll make sure that the white is showing this time. That way we're revealing any smoothing that we want to apply to the texture. So, and then make sure our brush is at 50% opacity. That'll just allow the smoothing to blend in and it won't look so harsh. So we'll go ahead and start painting over the flower areas. And now I'm going to zoom in so you can really see, and I'll turn this on and off. See how it smooths those areas and allows the, well, let me get to this area where you can see the texture in the flower. See how it lets the texture on the flower shine through. So we'll go ahead and get our photo back into full screen. And then for this photo, I actually want to add another texture. So to do that, I'm going to click on Texture Infusion and run it again. So I'll scroll down to the texture Menahune and I'll select it and click place. And same thing, we resize it over our photo and double click. And just like before, it creates a layer of soft light blend mode at 100% and creates a mask for us, all just with a click of a mouse. That's the cool part about actions. It really speeds up your workflow. So for this texture, I'm going to actually take it down to about 75% because it's just a little bit too harsh at full strength. And let's go ahead and apply the smoothing over this one as well. And we just make sure that the brush is showing and that the white is on top. And then just start painting again. And if a really simple trick, if the white isn't showing, if it's black, just hit the X key on your keyboard and you can switch between the two. So makes it pretty simple. And that's it. Let me go ahead and show you the before and then the after. I just love using textures. They can warm up a photo, they can create different texture effects that make it look like a painting. It's just awesome. So I hope you have fun experimenting and playing around with your different photos. One last action I wanted to show you is the tone it down action. And for this photo, maybe if I didn't want so much of this orangey color showing through and I wanted to get a little bit of the original color back, I can run this action by clicking it and clicking play, and the message pops up that says, before running this action, make sure you have the texture layer selected on which you want to apply toning. This action will remove all color from the texture, leaving the details intact. Click continue to begin. So you'll see what it did is it takes that orange tone out of the photo, but it leaves the texture intact. Isn't that so cool? And if you didn't want the color to be completely gone, you can customize how much color shows through by just moving the opacity down and revealing a little more of the color. And that's it. These actions are going to help speed up your workflow and make using textures so much more fun because you don't have to go through so many steps to get to the final result. So I hope you have fun experimenting with your own photos and the texture possibilities that are out there.